hasn't left the house yet. So I don't know if you all can see, we have a bunch of
Wow.
Egyptian paraphernalia, as you can say. So in our house, Egypt is it.
Jess, will you let us know
Awesome.
when we're live?
Yep, I was
Oh,
just about to. We have now shown up on YouTube. We're good to go.
okay. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name's A.M. Griffin. I am here hosting, I can't talk this morning, the POC Authors Paranormal panel. For all of you who don't know, this is our third one that we've done. Um, and I've started a website, POC Paranormal Authors, and this features authors of color who write in the genres of paranormal, sci-fi, fantasy, and urban fantasy. So this is just we're here just showcasing some of our beautiful and wonderful and talented authors. You can find the website at www.pocparanormalauthors.com. Again, I don't know why I can't say paranormal this morning, but I'm gonna try. Okay, so we have TP Miller, we have Shai August, we have Godiva Glenn, and we have um, Lexi Alexis Craig. Okay, so what we're gonna do first, I just want to go around and just have everyone introduce yourselves and just let everybody know where they can find you. We'll start with TP.
Hi, I am TB Miller. I usually write in the urban paranormal, contemporary romance genre. I have been pretty much writing since who knows when. But I released my first book in 2011. And since then, I've had, if I don't count unpublished, maybe 20 books under the belt. So I'm excited to do more.
Great, nice to have you, Shy.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm Shy August. I write paranormal romance that's 27 storylines that come together to make an epic fantasy. I guess that's the best way to hold it together. So it's a bunch of couples, and they're all um, centered around this reality dating show, kind of like The Bachelor style. So the storylines break off from that show. Yeah.
Okay, and I'm gonna have you tell everybody where they can reach you, like where they can find you.
Anywhere you type Shy August, you can find me. So my website, Shy August. All my social media is Shy August, and so yeah, all my books are on Amazon, or you can go to my website and I'll send you an autograph copy.
Okay, great. And TP, going back to you, where can they reach you?
It's the same thing. I'm under Facebook under TP Miller. All cap, well, not all capitals. The T and the P are capital. And Twitter, Instagram, all of those are going to be under Vampire Queen. So that's VAMPYRE Queen 14. And website, same thing. Actually, the website is under the chosen. No, it's under Commit Books. So just type that in. We're there.
Okay, thank you. Godiva.
Hello, so I'm Godiva Glenn. I just write paranormal romance. Right now, I have 3 active series. I write in 2 of Millie Tatum's worlds. So I write. I have an Otherworld Shifters and Otherworld Agents series, and then I also have my own series of Nightwolves. So I've got a lot going on. You can find me on Facebook. I have my author profile and I have an author page. Both are pretty much under Godiva Glenn. If you type that in, you'll find either one. I do have a website, godivaglenn.com, also on Instagram. I have a Twitter account, but please just don't bother there because I cannot handle Twitter. It's too much for me. I gave up. But all my books are on Amazon, and I'm actually available wide, so you can find me on Kobo, and every other place. So, yeah, that's me.
Thank you. Nice to have you. Okay, Lexi.
Hello, I'm Alexis D. Craig, and I write paranormal romance. I write a little romantic suspense that's not paranormal. I have about 14 books out in varying romance genres. Um, I fancy myself a romance author with a day job. Um, if you want to find me, I'm on Amazon, all over it. Just type in Alexis D. Craig. My website is alexisdcraigbooks.com. And from there, it'll connect you to the Facebook group, my readers group, my Twitter page, and I love my Twitter. So it's Dispatch Vampire on Twitter, my Instagram, all of that.
Thank you. Nice to have everybody. Okay, so let's get into it. Why did you what motivated you to start writing paranormal? Was it like you read somebody else's book and you're like, "Oh, I can do that," or you saw a movie, or you had just had an inkling? Like, what made you just decide to start that? And we can start with Lexi since you're first up on my screen.
Okay. I actually wrote a really terrible paranormal novel when I was about 15. Um, we're talking like 400 pages of 15-year-old girl angst.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Full of, demons and vampires and werewolves and whatnot. And after that, I kind of put it down for a while. And then one of the detectives that I work with, he said, you should write about a ghost hunter because he ghost hunts in his spare time, and so do I. And so that stayed fermenting in my head until I finally wrote Dead and Disorderly. And after that, I've been kind of hooked on just, how much space you have creatively in the paranormal world. Nothing is really off limits. Nothing is really super taboo. You can just kind of do what you want. And I really love that.
Okay, so we're gonna back up because I feel like we just can't go past the ghost hunting bit. You just can't throw that on people and be like, "Oh yeah, I ghost hunt." So, how
Yeah.
long have you been ghost hunting, and have you actually seen a ghost?
Uh, let's see how long I've been ghost hunting regularly, semi-professionally for 10 years. Yeah. I have friends that I go with. I have friends who can do things like clean houses and things like that. I have actually seen one, which was easily one of the coolest and weirdest moments of my life. I have some really cool pictures. Um, I made the mistake of walking through one. I felt terribly rude. I did apologize. Um, and by the way, that feels like, how old TVs have static, like when you turn the TV off,
Yeah.
like that wave of static around. Picture that, only your whole body and all your hair stands up. It's very weird.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And I actually saw that one through a reflection as I was walking by when I was by myself. It was very, very cool.
Okay. So I don't know. People describe. I'm glad you see this cool. I get. I guess you would have to since it's your profession.
Well,
The rest of us would probably run the other way.
I have a regular day job. I do. I have a regular garden variety, dress up and look like a grown up day job. This is just something I do for my own joy and to help people.
Okay. Well, great. Okay, Godiva. We'll follow up. Why did you get into paranormal? Now, if you say something offhand like you hunt werewolves, then I would know something about this group. But go ahead.
No, I'm actually pretty boring compared to that, I just the whole gosh, you said that you weren't going to ask any like hard-hitting questions. But that one, I feel like that one changes depending on what I'm thinking about, because I feel like it's one of those things where you think about like why you got into writing in the first place, and it seems like there were like a million little signposts pointing the way, and it's like, so this little thing added to it, this little thing added to it. I love reading paranormal romance. I started reading like the urban fantasy when I was, working and writing one of my contemporary novels. And I just decided I wanted to do like a Halloween edition of at the time I wrote contemporary erotica. And I decided to do a Halloween edition where it was like a crazy Halloween party and everybody was getting laid. And I wrote it, and then I was like, man, that was so fun. I want to keep doing that. And so I did. And that was it.
Then that's terrific. That wasn't hard hitting. So you knew that answer. Shai, what about you?
I actually fell down the rabbit hole of reading a lot of paranormal romances. I think it was Anya Nolan at the time and T.S. Joyce, but like maybe 1 out of 30, 40 books would have a Black woman as the heroine. And I was like, I gotta read some. And I would go deep diving on Amazon. I couldn't find any. So I had to go and write them myself. You know, age old story. If you don't see your story, you write it.
Okay, TP.
Well, I guess let me be the first. I'm like Shy. I started because I was reading paranormal and I was reading all the different books, and I was like, where are my people at? And I wanted to sit here and have something for us. Like, keep in mind, I was the kid that read like Frankenstein and Dracula as a kid. Everybody else was reading like the young coming to age, and I was stuck back in Dracula's time. So eventually I got into LA Banks. And I was like a huge fan. I have all the books, da 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 da. I would go to the groups and the chats and everything. And I was like, she's the only one that's writing at the time that I knew something for us. And I was like, well, I have this idea. Let me try and put it on paper. And so eventually I came out with the first book, and that was what started it all.
Okay, and what was that first book?
It was Out for Blood.
Okay.
It was basically the story of a woman that lost her family first, as in her parents were killed, her daughter was kidnapped. So she eventually started researching and figuring out, this could be vampires. So eventually she gets turned to find that person who killed her family and kidnapped her daughter. So she has her, I guess you can call her group, her crew that kind of is with her on this go searching for the answers that she's been looking for this whole time.
Okay, that sounds very, very interesting. So that wasn't going to be one of my questions, but I think that is a good place to start. Where, like, what we got into what made you decide to write paranormal. So why don't we hear about what's the first paranormal book that you guys wrote, whether it's published or unpublished? Just well, let's stick with the published one so that people can know where to find it. What's the first one that you wrote, and just explain a little bit about it? So we'll go to Shai.
My first paranormal book, my first book, period, is The Shifter Bachelor, and it came out Halloween 2018. Yeah. And it was based on, it's the Bachelor dating show for shifters. And it introduces you to my world because I spent a lot of time building it. So that, I wanted to have a nice one story that can introduce you to my world, and then you'd get sucked in and you'd like, oh, I'm going to read everything she writes till I die kind of thing. So that's what I planned on.
Okay. Godiva, what was your first one?
So my first paranormal romance was Supernatural Delights, and it released the week before Halloween in 2016. I had to Google that because I couldn't remember. I knew it was like early because that was like my first prop into romance. And like I said, it's a really fun one. It's kind of like it's a frame story. So the party is like the setup, and from there you get 3 individual short stories in it. So it's like it's like if you walk into the room and it's 2 guys, they walk into a room, they split, and the story follows one guy, then jumps to the other guy. So it was really interesting writing that, because previously I did have an unpublished novel that I had written, and it was vampires. And then whenever I wrote Supernatural Delights, one of the guys is a wolf shifter, and I realized, man, wolf shifters are just much hotter than vampires.
Yes.
I know, fighting words.
It's true. I'm wolf shifters.
But that's where I ended up, writing all. That's what spurred Nightwolves, actually, was that specific story. And maybe someday I'll pick up on the vampires, but probably not.
Okay. You're up next. I'm looking at you. I'm like, you're up next, but you don't know who. Lexi.
The first paranormal story I had published was Dead and Disorderly. It follows the story of Naya. She is a owner proprietor of a new age store. She sells crystals. She sells sage. She rents the upstairs to the psychic that works out of her store, and she gets called out to ghost hunt by her best friend. When she shows up, her best friend's not there. His detective partner is. And from there, they go to this haunted house that becomes so much more. And it kind of consumes them. The story of the house and what happened to the family there consumes them, draws them together, has some very strange connections to his family. Um, and it's just a great big happily ever after with ghosts and flying furniture.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so then the next question is, I know I said no hard questions, so some of you might think this is a hard question, but the next question is, who is your favorite paranormal hero? I know that that's kind of blasphemy because you love them all, but if you had to pick one, who is your favorite and why is he your favorite? Let's start with Godiva.
Are we talking about from our books or
Yes,
from someone
no,
else's
from
books?
your book.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
Oh man, I was really hoping somebody else would get this one so I would have time to think. Gosh, you could have given us the questions ahead of time. So I think my favorite is going to be Annika, and I know that I bet the readers would think that we'd all choose heroes at this point, the guys, the sexy guys. But no, I'm going to choose Annika from a reverse harem that I wrote, Sealed Fate. And it's because it's not the typical shifter story. First of all, it's got Selkies in it. And that's not really what people think about when they think, hot, brooding alpha men. But her ex-boyfriend's kind of psychotic and tried to kill like the new guys that she was dating. So, plenty of testosterone there. But she's my favorite because she goes up against this idea that for her, true love is not an option. Like we all know the Selkie tales where, the human men are drawn to them and basically it never ends well. Either the guy steals the Selkie's skin and she has to live this miserable life on the land, or she returns home to her people and he tries to follow her and drowns because he can't breathe underwater. And facing that, she's like, but I want my love anyways. And she wants it. She's wanted it forever, to the point where like her friends and family know her as not your typical Selkie, because they just want to have fun. They want to go swimming. They want to, be casual with everything. And she's like, no, that's not me. I'm gonna find love, and I'm gonna do what it takes to get it. So yeah, she's my favorite, and that's Annika from Seal Fate. And I probably have it. Yep. I love this cover, by the way. She's gorgeous.
Oh, that is a nice cover.
Yeah. So Yep, that's my
Okay.
favorite one.
Okay, Lexi, who is your favorite heroine from your books and why?
I have to say, I really fell in love with Cora. Cora has this. She's from A Killing Moon, and she's very different, and she's very angry, and she's got reasons. But she has a lot that she had to overcome to get where she is, and she has a very take no prisoners attitude that I really, really enjoy. And she's fun to write. She has no shame and no compunctions. If she sees a problem, she will run through it. Guns blazing if she has to. She doesn't care. And I like that she's so malleable a character because she can adapt. She's a spy, and so she adapts to different situations quickly. She's not afraid of killing people, and she does what she wants. Plus, she's not a traditional shifter. She's a raven. Most of the shifters in my books are birds for reasons that escape me that just kind of happened. Um, so it's a little different than your garden variety shifter.
And I have to mention that we did read the POC Paranormal Authors Book Club. Did read that book. When was I think it was it February or
So
January? So yeah,
February.
okay, yep, we did, and we absolutely loved it, and I do love Cora. And the thing about her I thought was interesting was that even though she's a raven, she doesn't shift to a small raven. She's like a big raven. And so and so she has those raven characteristics that are true to her, which like you said are very strong, independent, and like, a killer. And would just, go in there guns blazing. So I really did enjoy her character.
Thank you.
Hmm. Okay, TP, who is your favorite heroine and why?
See, that is the hard question. Um, if I had to, off the top of my head, say someone, it'd have to be Neff, which is from, Out for Blood. Just because she's so determined, she's like, I have to find out who did this to me. And her determination, her motivation is kind of, and one of my favorite lines from the book is like, you killed me and you killed my family, you killed my husband, because in the story, I don't know if I should give that. Anyway, it's fine. Um, her husband becomes a vampire, and he's the one that actually turns her. So they have this mesh and this relationship where it's like, hey, if I have to go and do this with you, we're gonna do it together. Um, and just at the end of the day, their dynamic as a whole was so fun to write because in my head, I'm like, this is me and my husband. That's what I based it on. But she's so determined and she's so fierce with the way that she's like, I gotta find out who and why and what and why did you do this? And eventually she does.
Okay, thank you. Shai, you're the next up. Who and why?
Okay, so I'm thinking it's two people. So first is Amani from the Shifter Bachelor because she's a war elephant shifter. So I write African shifters, elephants and tigers and all those good things.
I love Imani. You know, we at the
Everybody
POC
loves
book club
Imani.
also that you're like,
She's a
okay, I'll
plus
let you
size
finish.
heroine, and she's take no shit. I will fuck you up. I'm sorry, excuse my language. I ain't finished this coffee. Y'all know I'm uncaffeinated yet. Um, so it's Amani. first, and then her best friend is Davita, and Amani's always been Davita's protector since they met, way back. And in my reverse harem, Bachelorette in Heat, Davita goes into Heat, and she becomes her own person. She realizes that, all the bad things that she's been through doesn't stop her from having a good life going forward. So those are my two favorites.
Okay, so we all know it was coming. Who is your favorite hero and why? So we'll start with I was going around. We'll start with you, Lexi.
My feelings are hurt. I'm thinking. Honestly, I like Vasily. Vasily is like, I have so much backstory written for this particular character that you don't really get to see. I don't know if you play D&D. They have character sheets and you roll out character things. Well, I did kind of the same. I do the same for my characters, where I put together character sheets for them, and so I have a lot of backstory that the reader doesn't get to see. And I love him so much because he's been through a lot, but he's still very funny. He's still very much about the job. He's still very much about his mate, who we meet in A Hunter's Moon, but um, he's still very funny and he's very focused. And I love that regardless of what's going on, he is controlled. And I love that he doesn't get ruffled, he doesn't get upset, and plus he's an owl, and an owl is a cool shifter. So there we go.
I like him too. TP.
I was hoping I had more time. Again, off the top of my head, if I had to pick, it'd be between two. It would be between Ram, who is obviously Neff's husband, just because he is so protective, and he's like, my wife is hurt, I gotta go and bust some shit up. I mean, I just gotta destroy everything any way possible. The next one that I have to pick it has to be Terrence from my Blood series, my Blood City series. Just because he's like, I wouldn't say arrogant, but he's confident. And he's like, I don't want to have anything to do with, you or your plight that you're going through. Just leave me out of it. But he makes it so compelling. He acts like he doesn't care when he actually does. Like, if he didn't, he wouldn't do half of the stuff that he did in this whole series. So it's been fun to write kind of their relationship together. It's fun to write Ram and Neff's relationship together. So those are my two.
Okay, Shai.
Okay, I think my favorite is She Sing from Bachelor in Paradise, because it's a dating show, but like, he's only after Monday. The rest of these women can go fall off a cliff, or as my grandma say, take a long walk off a short pier. I mean, he's not interested in them at all. He has to be bribed to spend time with the other women. It's a dating show, but he's like, nah, I'm good. Just, whenever Monday is around, let me know. I'll be here. And I like a man with that kind of focus and determination.
Godiva.
Okay,
You had
this
time
is-
to think about it now.
Yeah, I've had time to think about it, but it's rough because since I do write a lot of reverse harem, so it's like the guys tend to come in threes, and it's like choosing one out of like 15 guys. And but I think I'm gonna have to go with Kale, which is the lead from Night Caught, which is also behind me somewhere, which is right here. And it's because he's one of those. Well, I like to go with like the tortured heroes, and he's been through a lot. He went from being next in line to be pack leader to being banished and outcast and basically left to die. He goes kind of feral. In the beginning, like he's having trouble holding on to his human form. All he's doing is basically going around on his wolf and like surviving. And he wakes up with like the taste of raw fish in his mouth, and he's like, God damn it, I need a burger. And I just really like him because even with all that, though, he hasn't become jaded towards love. That's one thing where he questions a lot in life, but he doesn't do that whole, I can't love, I don't believe in love. He doesn't do that. And I love that juxtaposition where you have a guy who's just been down, and he's treated horribly in this one. Like, he's kidnapped and drugged and experimented on, and it's a pretty wild ride, but he believes in love, which is nice. So he's my favorite hero of the moment. Though, like, in a few months, it's going to be somebody else because I'm working on something with Hades, and I absolutely love him.
Okay, so where like we all have series and prolific from what I'm hearing from the group. If someone were new to you, which book or series would you tell them? Well, which book would you tell them to start with? And just tell us why we should start with that one. Like, give us the rundown of what's going on in that book. TP?
The first thing I thought about was the Blood City. The Blood City. Why can't I say things today? It's the Blood City series. And the reason why I say that is because, number one, they're short. Number two, they're set in New Orleans. So you can imagine all of the drama and voodoo. And once you introduce vampires to it, it's just a whole lot of everything. So I love going. We go every year, and I was determined to sit here and make the Blood City series as authentic and as real as in, like, if you didn't know New Orleans, you can probably use the book as a map because it is. I hope that it is as accurate as possible. So that would be my suggestion first. And then Out for Blood would be next because it's a mix of your urban paranormal, and then it's got the Egyptian culture in it too, which like I said, go back to. I've been in Egyptian culture since I can remember. So those would be my two off the top.
Okay, so what happens in the in your book? Like, what would make us
Blood
be
City.
drawn to it? Yeah, what would make us be drawn to it? What's going on with these characters?
Um, Basically, in Blood City, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's a copy of, it's kind of a more watered down version of Out for Blood. Basically, what happens is you have Chloe, who is a normal girl going out with her friends on a girl trip to New Orleans. They decide to take a tour. And she ends up becoming a vampire because she gets attacked when she decides to leave the tour. So she basically wakes up in the morgue, doesn't know what happened. Um, and from there, she's basically running through, I guess you can say, the New Orleans culture or New Orleans history, trying to figure out who is behind the attacks because there are other attacks going on in the city. So she's trying to sit here and figure out who is behind them.
Does she find out?
Well, I'll say it this way. We're 4 books in. I'll say that. There's 4 books in, and she kind of finds out. Let me be honest. I was going to end this in 3 books. And then I just so happened to run across another cover that I had made for book 4. And I was like, well, I guess I got to write book 4 since I made it. And from there, it's like, I might as well just try and finish it up as much as I can. So yes, from the first 4 books, I can say that she knows who is behind everything. Now it's kind of that back end of what can she do about it.
Okay, yeah, because you need that book to clean it up, and so that readers aren't
Close.
like, "Huh,
Yeah.
well, what happened to this? This is a loose end." So yeah, that closing
Yeah.
book. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Shai, where should readers what book should readers start with you and why? And tell us a little bit about that book.
It just depends. If you just want to be introduced to my world, then The Shifter Bachelor, of course, is the intro to all of my world building, because all of my books, no matter the series, are interconnected. But if you really want, like bride auctions, because that's it used to be a thing, and in Victorian and Elizabethan England, they used to have these bridal auctions, and so I set my series the aftermarket around those. That's where shifters go, and they fight, and well, they bid on a woman and then they fight for her, and whoever wins the fight gets the money and the girl. and, and then I also have Camp Pounce. It's big cat speed dating shifter camp. So you go, you come out with, a bunch of men. I love you, or women. I hadn't got that far yet, but yeah. So it depends on what you like. If you like reverse harems, then you go Camp Pounce. If you like fighting, you go Aftermarket. And if you just want to read me, then The Shifter Bachelor.
Okay, so tell us about the fighting one. Like which one would they start with, and tell us what goes on in that one.
Oh, they're all the Aftermarket. There's volume 1, 2, and volume 3 comes out
But tell us
July
about volume
31st.
1. So like as a reader, they would start with volume 1. So tell us what's going on in volume 1.
Okay, so Jade is a wolf shifter, and she's married to the guy who stole all the money. And so they're all second chance romances. So she was married to a guy. He stole all the money. He embezzled it. I kind of based it off Bernie Madoff. And she had to divorce him. And then somebody tried to kill her by firebombing her house. So she had nowhere to live and nowhere to go. And no one trusted her because she was married to the guy who stole all the money. So she goes to the aftermarket, and she's bid on and won by this guy Mannix. And, he's I believe he's a lynx. And they get married that night. He takes her home and kind of like ignores her. Even though he's like wildly attracted to her, he ignores her. And so it doesn't happen until, she goes in the heat and he's like, "Hey, I'm here." And she's like, "Nah, I'm good, dude. You weren't here all these times before. I'll go through this by myself." But, they connect, and, that's the end of the story.
Okay. Good time. But where should readers start with you? What book should they start and tell us about that book?
Like Shay, I have multiple series, but mine actually aren't all linked. My Night Wolves are in their own universe. And the Otherworld agents and Otherworld shifters are in another universe. So I will say the easiest way to find the book to start, on my Facebook author page, I have set up a chat box. So you can go there and see what you're interested in, and it will recommend a book for you to start that series.
No,
But for the
that's cool.
yeah, it's
Why
not
am I not,
perfect.
I'm not that tech savvy.
Sorry.
But yeah, other than that, so with Night Wolves, you would start with Night Revelations, which it's God, my mind is blanking. I'm sorry. And I had my coffee. Oh gosh. What does happen in Night Revelations? It's Charlotte and sorry. It's Charlotte, and she's kind of like new to the pack, so you get a lot of the wolf shifter lore. But actually, you know what? Let me back up. It is the first book in the series, but there's a prequel, and the prequel is free. It's free everywhere. So whether you like reading on the Kindle or the Nook or whatever, it's free. Night Discovered by Godiva Glenn. It's a short story, but it introduces Charlotte and Damon, who are the couple in Night Revelations, which is where it kind of kicks off. You get a little bit of wolf lore, but you get a lot of sexy times too. So it really, I think it's a good introduction of like how I write. All of my Night Wolves books are MF, just single monogamous couplings. And if you're looking for reverse harem, I do that in my Otherworld Shifters, which are not all reverse harem. They started off all royal based, and then I changed my mind after the first 3, and I got addicted to reverse harem, so they're all reverse harem now. But you can start with any of those. The first book in that one is Royally Screwed, because I just love that title. You know, I was like really excited to use that title. And then I've got their Royal Compromise would be the start to like the whole reverse harem thing. And that one's really great because, you know, who doesn't want a harem of sexy guy dragons?
Right. So tell us what happens in Royally Screwed.
So Royally Screwed, it's a really funny story of so it starts off with a blind date gone very wrong. And this is the one that's in the Millie Taden world. So it features one of her characters, Jerry Wilder. She's a matchmaker. And I'm drawing. Brooke doesn't want to be like matchmaked, but Jerry's like, well, you know, I've got this like Fey Prince. Well, not Fey Prince, Fey Duke coming to town, and he wants to live on Earth now. So could you show him the ropes? And it basically doesn't work out that way. Like that's how it's supposed to be, but that's not how it happens. And next thing you know, Brooke is like trapped on Prism, and they're like, oh no, you're a part of our royal court now. You can't leave. This is your home now. And she's like, I got a job. And they're like, oh, we've handled that. You know, and so it's this huge thing of being taken to like another place, and like the love just kind of comes from amidst all the chaos going on. But it's really fun.
It sounds like a good book. Okay, Lexi, and I know I see you chewing, so chew, 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 and tell us what book should the reader start with, and tell us a little bit about that book. What goes on in it?
I had to have a mint. My mouth is getting dry. The reader should start with A Killing Moon, and the story follows Cora. She's hired to do a job. She's no longer a spy. She does freelance work, and she's hired to look after the prince on the low, on the down low. But they meet. They get together because mad sexual chemistry, only to find out that someone is trying to kill him. They make an attempt right after they get together, and she realizes she can't just watch him from afar. She can't just trail him. She has to be next to him, make sure that nobody else is coming for him. Through that, you find out about the villains. One person who is a villain has some legitimate grievances, and you get to meet the rest of the Winged Guardians, people she's worked with, people who work for the prince and for the palace. And the story just it's a fun, adventurous story that deals with lots of shifters, and the prince is a wolf shifter. So, you know, yay werewolves. Woo-hoo.
Yay! Yay, werewolves. Okay, so the next question is, I think I can probably just get 2 more questions in. So the next question is, how do you begin to build your world? Were there some certain ideas that you come up with? Just, I know we have, different books, but just pick a series and just what inspired you about that series. Did you first have the character that you wanted, or did you have like a world? You were like, oh, I want to have, wolf shifters, and I'm gonna, build the characters within. So how did you come about that? How did you build it? I think I just rambled that question. So basically, did the characters come first, or did your world come first? We'll start with you, Shai.
For me, the world came first because when I decided that I was gonna start writing, I I'm my personality type is INTJ, so I had to research everything and everyone and traditionally published and independently published. But the person whose career I wanted to mirror and follow their trajectory was T.S. Joyce. And her world is, you move from one group to the next group to the next group, and she stays within the same world, and all the characters are interconnected. And so that's how I built my world, so that once I left one group, I could move on to the next group and people would be able to stay in my world. And, always wherever you picked up, you'd want to circle back around to all the other characters.
Okay, Godiva.
So thinking about my Night Wolves, whenever I wrote that collection, Supernatural Delights, I introduced wolf shifters, and it was like, at the time when I was writing it, I thought it was going to be a one-time thing. So that had come from just, I wanted werewolf shifters in it, and so I just introduced them and had no lore or anything. And then when I decided that I wanted to continue the series, and I had to sit down and plot everything. So it didn't really come with characters or the world first. It actually came with a scene. I had this scene that I wanted where, and it actually happens in book 2 in Nightborn, where there's a wolf shifter and she can't shift, and she's just kind of like going through like a commune with the moon, and calling on her ancestors and wondering why she's like, they call her cursed because she can't shift into her wolf and she can't get in touch with her wolf spirit inside of her. And that's the scene that kind of gave me the plot for the rest of everything, where I wanted it to be this like kind of combination of like primal spirits, and there's a lot of spirituality, a lot of reverence for the moon, and also just the kind of wild way they live their lives. And I knew that that's the kind of shifters that I wanted to be, as opposed to, because there are lots of different ways to write like wolf shifters, and mine are, they can hide in plain sight, but they choose to live with their packs away from like human society. So I built up this entire thing of how they would get away with that. And so that's where I started. And I think normally that's not how I start, with a scene that's not even in book 1, but that's what happened this time around. And it seemed to work out really well. It just took a lot of, tampering to get all the pieces into place.
And usually that's how I come up with my books, or I'll get like stuck on a scene. Like a scene will just keep, playing and playing and playing and playing in my head until I write it down, until I built up this whole world around the scene. So that's usually how I do about it too. Lexi?
I had Cora first. I started off A Killing Moon as a short story called Lupercalia. I wrote it for Shai, who basically kicked me in the shins and said, "Hey, we're doing an anthology." Um, so I had a brief amount of time to get myself together, and Cora came to me immediately in the middle of a Starbucks, and I think I wrote the majority of that scene, the majority of the prologue for A Killing Moon, sitting in a Starbucks writing porn. It was awesome, by the way. And so yeah, Cora came first. Um Cora just kind of came marching into my head like Napoleon, and it was awesome. And I've built the lore as I go. I've definitely done a lot of the classical reading, as far as Dracula, and a lot of the other, going all the way back to King Arthur. A lot of the wolf shifters um, go back to the court of King Arthur, and so trying to incorporate all of that into the structure of my story has been kind of interesting. But for the most part, definitely started with the character.
Thank you. TP?
I think I do. I think it depends on the book. If I get the idea of these characters and who I want them to be, I'll sit here and plot them out first. Um, But if I see a place that I want to use or a scene that I want to use, I'll go ahead and build around that. I'm not really that complicated, I promise. I'll do my research, I'll make sure everything is as accurate as possible. I'm going back to the Blood City. If I'm using that as a base, I'm going to sit here and make sure that I know the slang, or especially in a specific place. A lot of the times I don't use a specific city because I want my readers to believe whatever city this is happening in or the story is set in, it could be their city. So I don't necessarily put a specific town unless it's something that is going to be beneficial to the story. Um, so I will take some time to do the research, to do cities or people, or just watching people to make sure that I can get interactions right, movements. I'm a people watcher. So at the end of the day, I can come back home and outline how I want this person to act, or what this place could look like, or these buildings that they could have in these cities. That's how I put everything together.
Okay, so the next question is, how do you keep track of your world? So everybody here writes series. So how do you keep track of them? Do you have a series Bible? And what does that look like? Just because as we know, you have to keep track of it. If you don't, readers are gonna find it and send you an email or write an Amazon review. So how do you keep track of that, Godiva?
Okay, so I have a private wiki database that I do where I have all of my characters, plot summaries, backstory, stuff that doesn't necessarily make it into the books, even. Um, and that's where I store like their character sheets, so like their goals, what they want, who their parents were, what their favorite color is, all of that stuff. And I have two for each of the basically giant universes that I write in. I also have just an ongoing spreadsheet that is just names, because that's what gets me, is that I will introduce a character and kill them off in one book and then suddenly try to reuse that name, and I don't want readers thinking, "Oh wait, isn't that the guy that just got like murdered in the last one?" And that's what I'm guilty of. Um cuz I'm sure that I know that a lot of authors do this. I forget my characters' names all the time. I can't I can't keep them in my brain. So that's how I do it. And I'm really excited to have, like, I use this wiki software, and I believe that it's possible to load it up on my website. So I'm hoping that when it becomes like really big and encompassing, I'm actually just gonna put that on my website so that readers can like browse all of the lore and everything that I've collected. I think that's gonna be a really fun experience, because I, as a reader, love when authors do that. I spend hours just digging through and like seeing all the connections. So that's how I do it.
I like that as well, especially when like there's an ongoing series and at the author starts putting like what they're talking about, like the lore, just the characters, the magic, the what have you, like in the beginning or at the end. And I'll just like go through and just like read it. And just so that when I'm reading it, it gives me such a better experience because now I actually know without having the characters, info dump me. So I do like that. Lexi?
I keep an ongoing spreadsheet. Um, you know, basically book one, these characters. It's divided up into what book they appear, information that appears in that book about that character, and then a selection of names. And so I keep it for the main characters. Basically, you learn in book one that character so and so parents died, blah blah blah. You learn in book two they play the piano. You learn in book three that this, that, and whatever. And so I try to keep the major plot points associated with the characters in a big spreadsheet. So divided up by book, so that way, I don't miss any continuity points.
And I use a spreadsheet as well. So for mine, I don't divide it up by books. I mean, I just have, just spreadsheets with a trillion different tabs. And then I do put like, this character introduced in book two, what goes on, and this tree introduced in book four. So that's how I do that. Godiva, we have a reader question for you, or audience question for you. It's what software do you use for your wiki?
I had just typed it in because I wasn't sure. It's Tiddlywiki, I'm pretty sure is what it's called, and it's HTML. It's an HTML based thing, so you can have it private on your desktop or whatever. I have mine hosted on a cloud, and it should be easy to port between like your computer and your website.
You said what was that? I'm writing it down for my own personal. What is
Tiddlywiki?
TIDL?
I think it's TIDDLY wiki. I think that's what it is.
Okay.
It's really easy to use. Lots of tutorials for it on YouTube. So
Okay, thank you. Okay, TP, getting back to our original question, how do you keep track of your series?
I'm old school. Like I got a million notebooks that are divided into either just basic stories. I got a notebook for outlines. I got a notebook for character bios. I got file folders for once I finish a project, it will go in the file folder. So that if I need to pull it back out again to say, figure out who did what with who, I can go back to that. Um, so I'm not fancy as far as a website or spreadsheets. I mean, I just, whatever I write, I'll put it down. And I mean, I got notebooks from forever, just filled with character bios. Um, I mean, colors, how they should act, where they first came in. I mean, it's a lot. My husband told me I need to figure out where to put it. But I mean, if I can't get rid of it. That's one of the things I cannot get rid of. And it's helped so far.
Yeah, no, whatever works, works.
Yeah.
Shai, what about you?
I have all of the above except the private wiki, and that's probably what's gonna happen now. Um I have Writer's Bible, and then I'm very visual. So as you can see, I got this craft paper back here, and it's got like 100 post-it notes. So I've done this for almost every book I've written, and then I even have one. I can't show it to you because I take it down and roll it up and put a rubber band around it. But I have one for like a character family tree, so like how all my characters are interrelated. And that's just a roll of paper. As you can see, I have extra from the Dollar Tree and in 1,000 post-it notes. So if you love me, buy me post-it notes.
Okay, so the last question, since we are running out of time, is what are you working on now and what is the release date? So we'll start with Lexi.
I am working on book 3 in my series right now. It's called A Sugar Moon, and it is Xander and Shayla's story. The royal wedding is getting close. Shayla's the royal wedding planner. And so it's a little fluffier just in terms of overall characters, but there's a lot of movement as far as the overall series plot goes. And it's coming out September 1st.
All right, TP.
Well, I am obviously working on book 5 now of the Blood City series because why not? Um, and on top of that, I've been for the longest time working on book 2 of the Chosen One series, which is with the Alpha Blood. And currently I am working on, I don't know if I can say it yet, but it's a fairy tale project. So that's going to be coming up soon. So those are my 3 big projects that I'm working on right now.
Okay. Do we have any release dates for any of them, or just working right now and release dates will come later?
Not exactly. I don't have. I never want to give myself a definite date. I know that the fairy tale project should be out in July. Um, but everything else is kind of I'm putting to the side to devote the time to try and finish this in time.
Okay. Shai.
It'd be easier to ask me what I'm not working on. Starting in July, I think I have a project coming out every month. So July, I have the Aftermarket Volume 3. August, I have Bachelor in the North, which is part of my main series. September, I have something. Oh, I'm in the What the Heart Wants anthology. I forgot. October, I have Camp Pounce Chester, which is my first male romance. And then December, I have Undercover Bachelor, which is another book in my main series.
It's nice to stay busy. Go ahead, girl.
It is.
Godiva.
Currently working on a trilogy, and it's going to be like demons, gods. It's going to have Haiti Angel as the central couple. That I was supposed to release this year. I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but the covers are gorgeous so far. I've got 2 of them completed. But I'm trying to write the entire trilogy before I release anything in case I have to change anything about the world building. But hopefully that can still happen this year. In October 15th, I'm going to have a release. It's going to be a novelette in my Nightwolves series, but it's going to be released in a fall shifter anthology. So that's going to be October 15th. I think the pre-order starts in July. And I will be working on another Otherworld Shifters reverse harem with dragons. It's going to be releasing in November, and it's going to be called Once More with Dragons.
Oh, that sounds interesting too. So a lot of good books to be looking out for. So we have come to the end of our hour, and my husband's coming home and he's rapping. So hopefully you guys don't hear it. Oh, okay. So thank you everybody for joining us. These are our lovely authors. They are all on the POC Paranormal Authors website. So you can find them and other talented POC authors at www.pocauthors.com. So please check us out. And we do have a Facebook group that's totally dedicated to the book club, and we like reading these guys, and we enjoy them every month. So thank you for joining us, and God bless. Bye everybody.